Buyer's Hour on WCPT AM 820, where the facts matter. And today we have Patrick Loftus in the studio with Armando Chacon in the studio with me, and then Joey's rural. And Armando, rural, I know, right? Joey's going to be off-site with us with our background noises as well. So, Armando, if you don't mind, give us a rundown. Tell us who you are and what makes you so special.
A pleasure to be on the show here with you this morning. Well, I'm a lifelong Chicagoan, for better or worse, that is the truth.
No, that's enough as it is right there. I love this city.
I love other parts of the country, but I've pretty much stayed in Chicago my whole life. I even went to college here at UIC, got an accounting degree, and worked in that field for a bit. And then I discovered this crazy business by sheer dumb luck, and just sort of found my passion, just sort of found what I wanted to do for maybe the rest of my life or my career and so forth. I've just thrown myself into what I do. So I've been a broker now for almost 19 years. I'm the managing partner, Century 21 SGR now since 2014. I have my own team, the Armando Chacon Group. You can find more of me at acgroupchicago.com. And of course,
say that one more time.
Sure, acgroupchicago.com, and I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. I do a lot of stuff outside of what I call my bread and butter business, which is a brokerage business. I've been a top producer now for several years running. Won a bunch of awards for sales and for quality service. So I really do am passionate about what I do, and frankly the results and have followed. So I enjoy that part. I also am a developer. I have my own company called ACG Development. We have, I think, 6 projects under construction right now on the near west side, Lincoln Square, Lincoln Park, and Lakeview. I am the president of the West Central Association, unpaid position, going up almost on 10 years for the near west side. That includes the West Loop, which is one of the fastest growing, has been one of the fastest growing areas in the country, just by sheer economic impact. It's been a ball. It's just been fun to be part of the growth and the change going on.
I love it.
About a neighborhood that, frankly, I'm very, very passionate about, is where I live. I'm the co-chair for the 78 Community Advisory Council. I work very closely with several aldermen in our area, and I'm passionate about baseball. So there's Sheridan Baseball League on the near west side that I support. My kids have my boys, 3 of my boys have been a part of that and are still part of that. I coach. I've been president of the Mary Bartolome Park Advisory Council. Very proud of my contributions there that include bringing a Christmas tree lighting ceremony and a menorah lighting ceremony. I brought the farmers market. I've done some other things in that park that, frankly, are still continuing now, so I'm very, very proud about that.
Nice.
I've worked on a branding campaign for Madison Street, and trying to do that for a couple other streets in our area. So I go on, but I'm so happy to say that I just have a ball doing it all. Just passionate about what I do for a living, my family, my wife and 4 kids, and my neighborhood, and frankly the city of Chicago for all the challenges that we have. I'm here to be a part of trying to come up with solutions and how to make the city better.
I love it. And if the one thing I'm hearing in your voice, and we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, is passion. And, a passion for this business, passion for your community, passion for the city, passion for everything that you're doing, which is a huge amount of respect that you just gotten from me. And I also want to dwell a little bit on the 78 that you mentioned, because I know that there's a new neighborhood, but otherwise it was always known as 77 neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. But I do want to talk about that one. But first I want to get Patrick and Joey introduced. Patrick, please give us a rundown on who you are.
I am exhausted.
I know there was a lot.
Everything that Armando is up to.
Right.
Man,
he needs to learn how to say the word no.
Well,
My wife would agree with you on that.
I mean, look, I admire your passion and your enthusiasm and quite frankly, your energy. You need to tell me your secret. Okay. I would like to say hello to my beautiful wife, Anna. I would like to say hello to our beautiful cat, baby girl, little stinker, Naya T. Cat. And I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Patrick Loftus. I am a real estate lawyer. It's important that you understand I'm a real estate lawyer because if you are dabbling in all sorts of different areas, well, you're a part-timer, and I'm not. I'm not a dabbler. So if you want to get in touch with me, I did a thing last week, and I'm going to continue to toot my own horn about it. You can email me at show@thehomebuyer'shour.com. That's the show's email, and that is where you can ask me, Charlie, Joey, any one of our guests, or all of us, any question you might have, and I will be happy. I will be ecstatic to go ahead and respond and do whatever I can for you.
I love it. And the most romantic voice in the world is going to be Joey Mathews. Joey, if you don't mind, give us an introduction.
Hi, Joey Mathews, NMLS 1330694. The VA Loan Nerd. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com or across all social media as at the VA Loan Nerd. And anyway, so I also feel incredibly lazy.
I know, right?
after
Me
hearing all
too.
that. Yeah.
What can I do more to help my community?
Jeez. Yeah, that's my intro.
I don't even talk to my
I'm not in the
neighbors, let
studio.
alone be involved with the community like that. It's amazing.
No,
Right?
without
Oh
a
my
doubt.
gosh.
So what is going on in the finance world, Joey?
Well, Jay Powell should be speaking. What right now? Let me see. Let me look at the time.
Ooh, I would love to get live. Can we? You want to live stream Jay Powell and we can dissect everything he says?
That sounds like a terrible idea. I hate that. Yeah. No. Oh my gosh. No. He spoke. He spoke. We're good. So I am waiting to see market reaction from his speech. Nothing's been crazy yet. We
Good.
are a little bit down on the 10-year Treasury yield from yesterday, but nothing to write home about. I don't anticipate any real changes in the rate environment until Friday when we see personal consumer expenditures get released. And maybe if the jobs report comes out crazy tomorrow, we'll see something. But nothing crazy today.
So rates are not going down to 2.5 this week.
I don't know. Maybe like give me 7 years, 8 years. Wait for another big economic event to happen before we have another refi market like that. So
Oh, that's interesting. I never heard that term refi market before. I kind of want to dwell a little bit on that later on. But first, I kind of want to talk a little bit more about Armando's dealing with the 78. What was that group again called?
So it's the 78 Community Advisory Council. It's created by former Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
All right.
Is
Is this the Lincoln Yards thing?
No, actually, that's owned by Sterling Bay,
Okay.
which I had some role in supporting there. But the 78, that site's, I think, the 62-acre site close to your neck of the woods, Patrick. So it's owned by Related Midwest, and they've been trying to get something going there most recently with a casino, which did have some opposition. But as we all know, that site did not win out.
We got the Wells Street extension, which I am, awaiting. It looks like are they just about done with that, or am I? Did I see something? Did I see something that I thought I saw but isn't there?
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of infrastructure work there, and to be honest with you, and I should know this is exactly what the status of that is, but we did get a tour of the site last year, and you started to see roads and some other stuff that's put in. Unfortunately, they're still trying to get some traction with. I think they're really hoping for the casino, but as we know, that didn't happen. So I think they're still sort of working on. We know DPI is going in there, so they donated that land to them. Hopefully that'll be a bit of a shot in the arm for that development. but there's a lot to fill in.
It's a big site.
It's a big site. Yeah, I mean, growing up here, I mean, it's almost a site that I wouldn't even really pay attention to, and I would drive over. We have a South Loop office as well, and I didn't even know that was. It never occurred to me that, hey, that's a developable site. It's huge. It's massive, and
the view from the Roosevelt Street bridge is much nicer looking north, and so you wouldn't even think to look south off of Roosevelt and notice, boy, there is a lot of open land there.
Yeah, 62 acres of it. So,
Wow.
I mean, enough that they, at some point, they were discussing putting a new red line station as part of developing that piece.
Really?
yeah, there was some controversy around that, as you probably
Seems like there's
know,
always
Patrick.
controversy on
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
exactly. They were related, bought some homes just east of Clark Street. And I think there was going to be some connection there, but the folks there pushed back, and
That's a
now
quiet
it's supposed to be
little
on the
pocket
other
over
side on the west side of Clark Street. Also, Metro's getting reconfigured, so it's a massive, massive mega project that's going to take some patience and other things. But
And what is DPI, or who is DPI?
so it's basically it's an organization, and maybe organization is not the right term, but I think it's an organization that is trying to groom young kids into getting more on the technology, kind of an incubator kind of thing. The building that they have right now in mind for that is to be a big space. So, for example, one of the things that we've asked DPI is to have space that's available for the community, for the community to use. I mean, I was told that, like in the West Loop, when we have community meetings, we have a few spaces, frankly, that we can use, although not lately with being virtual meetings. But what I've learned in the South Loop, there's not a lot of options. So we've asked for for DPI to make space or allow use of once the building is finished, for community meetings or space for the use of the local community there, and they've agreed. So
Nice.
those are some of the things that that I sort of work on a regular basis, whether it be, well, it's mostly on the near west side, but in this case it was in the South Loop.
That's awesome. So, I'm always interested in that stuff. Like, there's no tomorrow, especially when developments come in there. But this show is more about real estate,
Right.
and client advocacy and stuff like that. So, everybody has a little secret sauce. And I didn't really ask this, and this is kind of a curveball I'm throwing at you. But, share with us something. What's your secret sauce? How do you stay busy when the average lifespan of a real estate broker is 2 years? How do you be successful for 20?
Sure, no, that's a great question. I speak to this very regularly. I call myself a boutique broker, and to me, those are not buzzwords. That's literally how I operate. So when a client works with me, they get me. I say, hey, yes, we do have staff, I do have a team, but when you have a question, just as I got off the phone just before going on the air here, with a client that had a question, they call me, and if I can't respond right away, I call them back. I'm available all the time. My wife doesn't always like that, but I absolutely love being of service to people, and I embrace that role. I thank my clients for allowing me to serve them. I'm very clear about the commitments that I make, and I often tell my clients, and I expect to be held accountable. I hold myself accountable.
Me too.
And doing things in the right way is one of the reasons why I've been able to have some longevity and frankly some success in the business. And I just flat out enjoy what I do, and it's great to have sort of that as a foundation. Is I just flat out enjoy what I do.
And I can relate to that. I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Sure.
And I'm sorry about that. It's, I wanted to be a fireman when I was a young kid and a paramedic. And I did it. I did it for 37 years. and I did some really cool things. I pulled 2 people out of buildings that were still alive. I delivered 5 babies. Not many
Wow.
people could say they did that. I put a needle in somebody's heart, a pericardiocentesis, lung deep pressure. I did, but I could count those things on 2 hands, the amount of times I've done it in 37 years. And although it's rewarding, it's few and far between. A lot of people think Chicago fire is the real thing. And in all reality, it is. But what happens on one episode there was my entire 37-year career. All right, it wasn't one shot. But once I started getting into this real estate business and we find out that we're helping people with their basic needs, this is where the joy is. Every time we finish with the inspection, they look you in the eye, they say thank you, they shake your hand with the right hand, they hand you a big fat check with the left hand. And you know what? It's a pretty gosh darn good feeling.
It is. And, I enjoyed my years in sort of corporate America. I was very fortunate to have a great job, kind of out of college and worked for a great firm and met some great people, got great experience. But I just love being in somebody's living room and being able to communicate the value and the service that I can provide, and then ultimately being tapped to serve them. I mean, all these years later, that's just flat out still excites me. It's part of who I am and who I strive to be. And, there's an old saying, find a way to be needed. And I think I have, I've really sort of found that, and I know what that is for me. And it's again, go back to your original question. I mean, I think that's why I've been able to kind of stick around in a business, frankly, where there's a lot of attrition. I think agents come in to our industry with the wrong mindset. And
go into more detail. I want to know what the wrong mindset is.
Well, I think there's this illusion of flexible work schedule.
Oh, that's a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah, and there is some flexibility.
Yeah.
There is some flexibility, but if you really want to be successful, you got to, work hard and you have to be consistent in what you do. And I think there's a thinking by some that, I'll be able to work a couple hours and make a lot of money. And, it's one of the reasons why during the good times we have this big influx of new agents. And now with the market pulling back a little bit, we know that a lot of agents have left the industry. And by the way, even though the market is not what it's been for the last couple of years, it's still not bad.
It's
still what, maybe the third or fourth best of all time. Yet we've seen all this attrition in the last, sort of year or so. So I often tell new agents, you have to, you are not going to get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Not only do you have to accept that you're an entrepreneur, you have to embrace that. You have to have that right mindset. Like, I'm going to go get them. And it's tough for some agents to really get that and execute and run with it. But I continue to try, particularly for our new agents. So even when I have somebody that's wants to talk to me about getting into the industry, and I certainly don't mean to scare them, but I will tell it just like it is. Like, hey, don't come in here with these false perceptions. This is emotionally can be tough on you. It'll test your discipline and your will, but man, it's a whole lot of fun, and you can do very, very well if you do it in the right way, and if you're consistent, and ultimately if you execute on a sound plan.
You've used the word right a few times, and I like that. And we've always come back and said, you do it the right way, you do it for the right reason, and you do it at the right time. All right? And that's always a big positive thing. But there's other things that you have to do, too. You can't do things alone, right? You need to surround yourself with other like-minded people that believe in treating the client the same way as you do. And I'm not trying to tell you what it is. I'm hoping you're going to agree with me that everything is about that client satisfaction. Everything is about building the relationship and getting to that trust point in doing so. And that's part of one of the reasons why we got Joey and Patrick here as well, is those are relationships that you're going to have with attorneys, home inspectors, mortgage brokers, and so forth. And I'm curious, and I'd love to get a little talk back and forth between you and Patrick here. You know, what is it? What makes a good attorney? You know,
I mean, I think if you have great hair and you have a nice smile,
you have great
Well,
hair and
got
you have a
that.
great
You got
smile.
that,
Yeah.
Patrick, that's for sure.
what makes a great attorney? You know, I think first of all, that's a really hard question to answer because there's so many ways to answer it. But you know, the first thing that came to mind is willingness to listen.
Oh my God, that makes a great human being.
Well, yeah, it helps. It helps to be willing to listen, to let other people be heard, because that's really a good start to any kind of relationship, but especially one where there's a lot of trust necessary. When you fall out of sync with a client because that trust isn't quite there in a given moment, it's not a good feeling at all. And fortunately for me, it doesn't happen very often. But when that trust is there, when everyone is on the same wavelength and understands what is possible, what is probably not likely to happen, and we're all on the same page there, it can be quite the powerful relationship, attorney-client, and by extension, attorney with the others involved in the transaction, particularly the real estate broker who, let's face it, to me, and I know I am not, this isn't necessarily how every lawyer perceives it, but to me, this is a team effort. If I'm not maintaining that agent involved in the transaction between contract and closing, I think it's like we're playing baseball without a catcher, right? I'm throwing the ball and it's just hitting the backstop, and then I gotta go collect it. It's not a very good way to do it, right? If I've got the agent involved, that's a person, number one, who has been in this deal longer than I have, knows everyone involved better than I do, and is an excellent resource whenever there is a question that is, if there's something that I'm trying to accomplish and I don't necessarily have all of the information, or I think that there's more information that we could use in making a good decision. I mean, absolutely having the agent involved, this is a team effort. And Armando, I'm sure you work with a whole lot of different lawyers, and they have different ideas of what the role of the agent is, the real estate broker in the transaction.
Yeah, sure, and that does vary. To me, what makes a good real estate attorney is just the access and responsiveness, which is something that I pride myself on. But there are some things that are time sensitive, certain issues that need to be addressed, because what I'm trying to do with it sometimes in the transaction is starting to build sort of negative momentum, where the deal kind of starts to kind of get away from us, and trying to avoid that, stay on top of it. I'm a little different maybe than other brokers. I've had some brokers that that'll say, hey, we're an attorney review. Let the attorneys handle it. That is so not the way I work.
Oh my God, that's like the worst piece of advice.
Yeah.
And Patrick, that's not a dig on you.
No,
it goes back to knowing the client and knowing the situation, which Joey, we're kind of naive on those things.
Well, and there are some brokers that have that opinion where it's like, look, this is out of my hands now. And
hands off is not the answer.
I don't particularly enjoy that part. I go, well, okay, fine. I'm not going to try to convince someone that they should step into a role they're not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And it does happen. I'll have a conversation, for example, with an agent, and I'll say, I think this particular issue is one where a conversation between you and the other agent might be productive. And if I sense that they're fighting me on it and it's not going to happen, I go, okay, fine. You're not comfortable with that, no problem. I said last week, and I said more than a few times, the thing about lawyers is that our instruments tend to be very blunt.
Yeah.
I've got basically a hammer in my toolbox. And a real estate broker, a good one in my opinion, has a much broader range of tools in their toolbox. And I think last week I said, hammer, screwdriver, feather, silly putty. That
All you need is duct tape. That
Hey.
fixes everything.
I don't have duct tape, right? I have a hammer. Armando has duct tape, and he can definitely get stuff done that I might not be able to do just having, head-butting conversations with the other lawyer who might not be cooperative.
Well, I mean, Patrick, you said it. I mean, we should be operating as a team, and as it happens, usually is I'm going to have probably more insight and context into the transaction, and for me to help you do your job, it would be good for me to give you as much insight so that you can best do your job when you communicate and your communications with the other attorney. And that is something that I do. Sometimes my clients will say, Armando, I want to schedule a time to talk through this letter with you. It's like, I'm happy to do it. And then what I'll do, I communicate that, or you've been offered to include, the attorney on the. So to me, that tells me that my clients, are really interested and appreciate the advice that I give them. They want my perspective on how to sort of, keep things moving in a positive direction. And then ultimately, when the attorney writes that response, it's, as we discussed earlier, it's specific to that transaction rather than just a quick response that's. And we get that sometimes. Sometimes I see that in these responses, like, "Oh God, can you maybe soften it up a little bit?" Are you trying to have this transaction go south? Or are we trying to get something done here? Or are we not?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes a question that I will ask not just a broker but an attorney. Like, hey, are we trying to get something done here? Or are we not? And in order to move things forward, again, I just feel like I play a role in helping the attorney best do his or her job.
Yeah,
I love it.
Definitely. I mean, it's really, to me, it's important that you do maintain sort of a level of detail. None of us are operating in a vacuum.
No.
Okay. The transaction has a history before the lawyer gets involved, and you have to, I think, in my opinion, acknowledge that. I mean, yeah, look, if the will between the parties is to get the deal done, even if you are a bit of a bull in a china shop, yeah, you'll rub a bunch of people in the deal the wrong way, but it will end up happening, and you'll go, wow, what a great job I did. I really was protecting the client. I argued 5 points that ended up in our favor, and it's like, okay. I mean, if you need to justify your role in the transaction, and that's how you measure the success, then, well, you were successful by your own measure. Whereas, to me, if a transaction, if it goes and we didn't have to pick 5 fights that didn't need to get picked, even if it might look like, wow, he didn't necessarily have a ton to do in the transaction. Well, it's because through my experience, I'm able to determine is that a fight that needs to be picked in order to accomplish what's best for the client. If no, then we're not picking that fight. And that's the subtlety and the nuance, the experience, and moving the dial a little bit on something. If that's what is necessary, I don't have to move it all the way to 10 every time.
There you go. And Patrick, if anyone has questions about real estate law, how do they get hold of you, please?
Well, I would be honored if someone would feel that they would like to ask me questions at show@thehomebuyer'shour.com. And I'd even be more honored to get a follow on social media. Think you can find me Loftus, LOF like Frank, T like Tom, US like Sam _law. On Instagram, I think I said that already. And on TikTok @LoftusLaw. Give me a follow.
So you're on
Outstanding.
I'm
TikTok.
very clever.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm all over TikTok. Let me tell you what.
And then, especially if you're looking for cheap flights, but that's a whole nother
All
thing.
right. Yeah,
I'm going to give go ahead.
95 followers on Loftus Law. TikTok, I've got 68,000 followers on Let Me Help You Fly. So evidently more people care about going places and not spending a lot of money than about my level of expertise in law. I'm playing a little bit of catch up there.
Well, I'm the opposite. I want to know more about your law. Joey, if somebody has questions on mortgages, how do they get hold of you?
Well, you can call or text me at 630-235-2888. 2405. You can find me at thevaloannerd.com or social media as at the VA Loan Nerd.
And Armando, please give us your contact info.
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned, my website is acgroupchicago.com. My number's 312-543-8219. And of course, as I mentioned, the Armando Chacon group is on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. Not TikTok, Patrick.
You should at least reserve your IP on TikTok so that someone doesn't sneak in. Like,
Okay.
after the show, I go in and grab
Oh, no.
AC group, and then
It's true. That's why on TikTok I only have one N in Lone Nerd.
I didn't know
Someone
that.
else took it with two N's, the sons
That's-
of guns.
Oh, we got to go ahead and start getting them.
I'm gonna fly to Beijing and
There
handle
it
that.
is. So my name is Charlie Bellefontaine. We own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our website is www.thehomeinspectors. That's plural, O-R-S, and it's a .com. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. If anybody has any questions about home inspections or you're interested in entering the home inspection profession, please reach out. We're more than happy to help you. Also, don't be afraid to send an email to what Patrick said, a show at thehomebuyer'shour.com.
Yeah.
I do owe our producer, Devin, here a blacklight. I think he did send in the
did.
first email.
He did. I mean,
All right.
I'm disappointed in you, Chris.
He-
Very
I
disappointed.
know.
Listen, Devin had an unfair advantage. That's why, when I forwarded that email on, I was like, does this even count? But,
Yes, it counts. We're getting him a blacklight. That's all there is to it.
all right, Devin, I want to see that black light. When you do your TikToks, if I don't see that black light,
We're turning the lights off in here. We're checking the room. That's for sure. See if there's any blood stains in here.
no, don't
But
do
Armando,
that.
I want to get back to you, and same thing with. I kind of want to direct it a little bit to Joey now. One thing I could tell you about him that we've learned in the year and a half of doing the show is that Joey kind of goes out of his way. He's probably the most anal retentive mortgage broker I know.
He is so
and I'm
extra.
sorry if that's an insult, Joey. I apologize to you. But it's,
You love me or you hate me.
yeah, I love you, but your claim to fame is not having one of your buyer's loan get squashed based on your paperwork. And to me, that diligence is a big thing. Is that really what we're looking for, Armando? Is the diligence, or is there more that we're looking for the mortgage brokers?
Well, I think just the relationship aspect, the communication is something that I think is very, very important.
I'm hearing that a lot from you.
Yeah, communication with not just with the with the client, but with everybody involved in the transaction. I think that's just so important. I noticed some lenders will give sort of weekly updates and just sort of next steps and things of that nature. Some don't do it, frankly, and that's when I have to, take the time to follow up, and that's fine. That's what I do. I don't mind doing it, but certainly it's refreshing when I'm working with a lender that is being very sort of proactive and intentional about just the communication. I mean, ultimately, I want my client to be happy.
That's a big goal. They're not happy, then we're all out of business.
Exactly. And, if you can imagine, when I have a little bit of anxiety when a client asks me for a recommendation for anything, because, I'm in jeopardy. Sometimes I gain absolutely nothing by, actually always, if I have a good experience with somebody, recently I had a good experience with 5 clients that absolutely love this contractor, and this most recent time that I recommended him, it didn't go well. And, I feel bad about that. It's like, will I not recommend anybody else going forward? Of course, I will recommend others, but, I often tell, whether it's a lender or contractor, you take care of my clients, because if you don't, I'm going to hear about it, and I'm not going to be happy. So again, at the end of the day, I just want my clients to be well surfaced, and to have a lender or anybody else that seeks to have a level of service that I hold myself to.
I think that's fair. I mean, look, when we talk about clients being happy, I guess I would push back somewhat there in that particular emotion is really out of our control. And that's to me where the process is what ultimately is important. If you have a good process, you're going to get good results. And if you get good results, most of the clients will recognize that, and yes, the result will be happiness. There are some people, though, who happiness is not their default emotion, or
True.
doing a good job, that only gets you that's about as good as you're going to get, because depending on just their own whatever, if their expectation is that this is going to go fantastic and anything less is a fail, and there really isn't more than fantastic, then you'll get a nice. But happiness can sometimes be elusive for some people, for sure.
Joey, do you set expectations with your clients?
Yeah, up front, I tell them I'm not going to do a pre-qualification, and I let them know what I need to get a pre-approval done, and that I won't pre-approve unless I have the things that I need. Some people aren't huge fans of my bluntness, and that's okay. I mean, there's certain realtors I won't work with, and there's certain clients that we don't mesh, and that's okay. That's life. I'd rather find that out on the first phone call than find that out 2 weeks before closing, when I've been begging for, something from somebody and nothing's happening. So I'm not going to pre-approve unless I have what I need. It's a whole thing. Communication is obviously huge for me. I do try to make those weekly calls, Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays for the buy side, Tuesdays for the sell side. Because everyone needs to know what's going on, right? It's kind of important. You are dealing with a mortgage transaction. The only time that it becomes kind of annoying, I think, for realtors to have those phone calls is if I have a 60-day close for whatever reason, right? Because there's going to be very little movement on the file for a good 30 days there, because any file can usually be cleared to close within inside of I'm not going to say 2 weeks. Should be cleared to close it like 2 weeks or so. Sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more, but I mean, and then you just sit around. I don't have an update like, hey, we're still clear to close, just sitting on my thumbs here, So yeah, I think obviously communication is important. Like today, I just found out that I'm supposed to have a closing on Friday, and the attorney just reached out to me and informed me that no one ever let him know. And I'm like, how did this get to me with you not knowing? So now he has to push because he doesn't have any attorneys that can handle it. So good times. We're having a good time.
That's weird.
The fires
That is very weird. Yeah,
I can't say like, oh, no way, that never happened, because unfortunately, not everyone's process is a good process, and oh boy.
Well, that's the thing is, I got the requested date from his office, and he apparently he just was not informed by his. I don't know if it's a paralegal or whatever your assistant would be, but yeah.
That's not a good process.
I know.
I'm comfortable saying that. I don't know anything more than what you just told me, and I'm very comfortable saying that there's something wrong within that process.
I would agree. Oh, man.
Armando, what's your expectations of Joey and what he's saying right now, and the difference between, what was it, pre-approval and pre-something else?
Pre-qual.
Pre-qualifications. Thank you. What's your take on that? Do you take somebody out with the pre-qualification?
This is that's a great question. I might have a slightly different take on that than maybe other brokers. Some would say don't even get in the car until you have a pre-approval letter.
I've heard that quite often.
Yeah.
And then when the rates were changing a lot, some people, they had to have an updated one like almost every day.
Sure. Yeah, and I would say for me, I'm not too I'm not as strict on that as I maybe should be. I think when you're an entrepreneur, and I do consider myself an entrepreneur, and certainly, as an entrepreneur, you take on various risks.
Now, you got a lot of balls in the air, too.
Yeah, right.
All right, that's where I was going with that. I mean, how do you find time if you don't have somebody who's able to get a mortgage? And then we're out there showing them houses. I'm not saying their time's not valuable. It is, but don't we have to put those expectations somewhere in there?
Yeah, I mean, I will ask, sometimes I'll have a buyer or a client that's just really excited to go see something. And I will ask them, have you met with a lender? Have you got a pre-approval letter? No, I'm going to meet with them next week. I will tell you, I'm not going to be the broker that says, well, then I can't go out with you till you have a pre-approval letter. I'm just not going to do it. And I know that I'm taking on a certain level of risk with my time. I'm willing to do it. I've been fortunate to deal with some pretty good people, and that hasn't been a problem for me. So, but yeah, I mean, there will come a time, and very shortly thereafter, where I'm like, do you have that pre-approval letter? Who are you working with? And then I can just sort of, as soon as I know who they're working with, then I can call the lender and sort of just check in with him or her, and you get a feel for where they are, and that's how I've handled it. I've been in this business long enough where I usually know the lender, so I can just call them and say, hey, what's the deal here? Are they qualified? Do you have a pre-approval letter? Sometimes they'll say, yeah, we already have the pre-approval letter. Sometimes they'll tell me, we're still waiting on some documents. Okay, all right, but at least things are in motion and in the works. Again, that's how I've done it.
No, I like that. It's just, yeah, I hear the balls in the air. I hear everything we're trying to, and I call it, obviously juggling. And for me, I can't handle that. All right. I find that when I start getting overwhelmed with stuff, I end up shutting myself down. And that's when I need to put more work on the other inspectors or more work on the assistants, let them handle a lot of stuff so I could get back to focusing on what I should be doing. And, but yeah, I hear a lot of stuff. When you start off in the beginning, you had a big long list of things that we're doing. Yet you're still able to give that attention to your client, and you're still able to build that relationship.
That's my priority. With everything else that I do, and as I said, a lot of it is interrelated.
Yeah.
I have priorities. Again, my family, and then it's my clients. Everything else that I do, of course, I have to be very good at managing my time. Literally, I'm looking at my schedule. Multiple times a day. For the week, and sometimes I feel like I'm chasing my tail, but
you're not alone.
But yeah, but I've been able to do a fairly good job at managing my schedule, and on occasion I'll tap one of my team members and others when I need to. But again, I know that my clients are counting on me, and I make them a priority. But going back to the financing, a pre-approval letter is not a guarantee. And
do explain.
Well, you might have a pre-approval letter, and the financing could still, fall through for a variety of other reasons. I think, Joe, you can attest. Probably, you probably qualify your pre-approval letters, and for good reasons. So, but again, that has not been. I'm fortunate to say that has not been a recurring, or really that I can recall, really a problem for me and my clients. Maybe it's sort of, I often say I have a base, and I know what my base of clients is. It's kind of like a politician that has a base. I know what mine is, and I sort of cater to that base. Do I go outside of it? Yes, of course. But again, I've been able to kind of manage. I've had really minimal transactions fall through after, on financing.
Well, it seems like right now, with the tight inventory that we keep hearing about, that there's I forget what the percentage was. I think it's like, I just saw it on Redfin's Instagram. The number of multiple offer situations in the Chicago area. It's in the top 10 in the country. I want to say it was somewhere near 50% of transactions here in the Chicago area are seeing more than one offer. It seems to me, and just tell me if I'm wrong or right about this, that you really would want to have that pre-approval to submit along with an offer. Certainly, if you know that there are multiple offers, because the margins can be razor thin when it comes to making an offer and whether it's going to be the one that wins.
Oh, to be clear, any offer that if I'm representing a buyer and I'm making an offer for that client, I would absolutely be submitting with a pre-approval letter.
I see.
And on
Gotcha.
on the opposite side, if I'm the listing agent, I wouldn't even think of presenting it without a pre-approval letter. I would go even so far as I would even call the lender. Just to maybe ask a few more questions. On the multiple offer situation, this has been a funny market. I mean, I've had situations where, I know that the multiple offers are happening more in certain sectors of the market, certainly not all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to make that distinction because. I've had situations where I have multiple offers and we still didn't get above ask. So I just feel like buyers have been a little bit more thoughtful and sensitive on price. And for that reason, I've been saying, and so far, I sent out a forecast in January to my clients. The market so far has kind of panned out the way I sort of thought that it would. Where, yes, there's low inventory, and despite the higher rates, I think the lack of inventory has kind of helped to keep pricing stable. And I think for the most part, pricing so far has done just that. For certain property types, I think this is a price-sensitive market. Buyers are just don't feel like they don't want to overpay, and of course there's the the additional burden of higher rates and what that means to people's monthly payment. But again, the lack of inventory is still forcing. There's still people that have this fundamental need of housing, and that is what sort of has carried us through.
That's one of our basic needs.
Exactly, which is very different from we're talking about what happened in 07, 08. Yeah. I think that's a big distinction. Back then, there was a lot of speculation that was really rampant at that time. We just don't have that now. We don't have the plethora of inventory back in 07, 08. I'm sorry, we don't have it now that was there back in 07, 08. One of the reasons why values plummeted for years that followed. And obviously, we've recouped that lost value. So, it's. I think as I talk to other owners of other companies and other brokers, there's been a pullback. I think the pie is going to be smaller when it's all said and done this year. But I'm certainly feeling optimistic about 2024. But so far this year, as I said, I think it's gone the way that I thought it would. Unlike last year, and this is something that I said, we'll see if it's true. I said, unlike last year, the second half will be better than the first year. We'll see if that pans out.
Yeah, I could see that happening, especially the writing on the wall seems to be that we've reached Here I go. I'm going to do the Joey thing and make a prediction, and then it's going to.
Oh boy,
it's going to be thrown back in my face.
I'm not the only a-hole here.
Patrick. I just made a prediction, so I'm putting myself out there.
Sure. Okay. All right. Let's do. Let's jump off the cliff together. No, the phrase I heard from a prominent mortgage broker was that we're going to hit 5 before we hit 8, and if that happens, and we talked about this last week, you're going to see a lot of buyers who prior to then were sitting on the sidelines, just having the sticker shock of seeing the monthly payment what it was when they were sort of dabbling in the market back when we had 3% interest rates, and then now what it would be same house at 7, they go, can't do it.
Yeah.
Because we're conditioned to buy things based on what the monthly cost is, not necessarily what the value is, price versus value. But if it drops down to 5, which is I think where generally speaking they'd like to see it, whatever. 5's good. All right. Then you're gonna see, I think. And we talked about this last week, Joey. You said it. You think right now that demand is way outstripping supply. You just wait till those mortgage rates do dip down. It's gonna be even more crunchy. Now that's gonna put some more sellers out there because they're not gonna be as afraid to jump from their 3% to a 5% as they are to go from 3 to 7. So we'll see. I like your optimism. I'm on board.
Yeah, and the other prediction that I made that rates would be they would come down Frankly, I thought they'd be a little lower by now, and that has not quite happened to the levels that I had called for.
It's because of Joey did that,
Or Powell, if he would just change his tune a little bit, that would be great. But there's some positive signs out there, sort of percolating in the economy and with inflation and and employment. I actually said that
all those numbers seem good.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of pullback, some layoffs, which I actually think were positive. Some pullback in employment is positive because there's been so much underemployment. In other words, we just can't fill jobs. So I thought that was a little pulling that back a little bit. I thought was good, and now I think employment is good if inflation is down a little bit. Again, would love to see an additional boost through a couple other indicators, and I think that's happening.
And Armando, if people have questions about real estate, how do they get hold of you? We're getting to the end of the hour here.
Sure. Again, thank you for having me on the show.
Always.
Multiple ways. Cell text 312-543-8219. Through email armando.chacon at century21.com, or you can just go to my website at acgroupchicago.com. There's easy to send me an email through that. Pretty easy guy to find.
I like that. Easy to find. And that's Chacon, Chacon. The phone number again is 312-543-8219. And he's our real estate expert of the week. So please feel free to reach out to him. Patrick, how do they get hold of you, please?
Email show@thehomebuyer'shour.com.
You make me smile every time you say that now.
Well, you should, because it's amazing.
It is amazing.
Find me on the socials at Loftus_law. Yes, indeed, Joey, just like somebody parked at the VA Loan Nerd with 2 N's on TikTok, somebody snapped up at Loftus Law on Instagram before I could get there, but I got there first on TikTok at Loftus Law.
I love it. And Joey, how about you?
Well, you can call or text me at 630-235-2405. Email me at show@thehomebuyer'shour.com. Or you can go ahead and find me on social media as at the VA Loan Nerd or at thevaloannerd.com.
I love it.
Did you hear it? He was a nerd.
My wife always looks at me with the most cross eyes when I do that. I think it's amazing.
No, I love it right there. So, and I got to say that I'm really proud to have both of you on the show with me. I think you're two of the most professional, real estate professionals in this business, and I'm just thrilled to have you here. My name is Charlie Bellefontaine, and our business is Chicagoland Home Inspectors, and our website is www.thehomeinspectors.com. That's plural. That's an ORS. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. And I am so waiting for that first email to come in. Show@thehomebuyer'shour.com. I can't say it with a straight face. I'm so sorry. Where it comes with it. And if you're interested in joining the home inspection business, we own Home Inspection University of Illinois, and that's HIUIL.com. I'd like to give special thanks to Devin. He's our producer. He makes everybody sound so good. Another special thanks for Armando for taking time out of his busy schedule, and we've heard it's a real busy schedule, so we're very thankful.
Thank you, Charlie. It's been a pleasure.
And other
to be
than
on with
that,
you.
my name is Charlie, and again, I am out.